given that we are in this quadrant, did you want to talk about Sam?
Sure.
All right. Well, I'm not sure quite where to start, but Sam has been, he's continued to be aggressive going after you and me over COVID, where my impression is that you and I turned out to be right pretty well across the board. I've acknowledged the significant place where I believe I was wrong. I don't think I was way wrong, but...
And what was that in?
Masks.
Oh, okay.
I thought masks stood a decent chance of being useful, and at the point that it turned out there was no evidentiary support for that, I said so. I still think, given that we didn't know at the beginning whether or not COVID was transmitted by fomite, in other words, by droplets on surfaces, something that covers your face and prevents you from coughing out droplets or touching a droplet to your mouth is a decent bet. But anyway, okay, so my error was masks. I don't think Sam has acknowledged any of his errors, and he said some really aggressive stuff about me, and I think recently he said some stuff about you, and he's actually still beating this drum about your podcast killing people. Am I right about that?
Allegedly. I don't listen to any things he says anymore because it's depressing. Sam is the reason for the joke that I had in my special. We lost a lot of people during COVID, and most of them are still alive.
Yeah.
I feel like we lost Sam. And I think whether Sam realizes it or not, it had a massive impact on the number of people that take his position seriously, because he's unwilling to acknowledge that the vaccines clearly damaged a lot of people, unwilling to acknowledge that they weren't necessary, especially in kids and in younger people, and I think any healthy person under a certain age, unwilling to acknowledge that many other things could have been done to prevent serious illness and hospitalization other than just this vaccination, and that this vaccination is seriously flawed. I had a conversation on the phone with him. I've only had a couple over the last few years. I still love Sam. I always thought of him as a friend, and I think he's a very interesting guy. The first one was after I recovered from COVID, where he was trying to convince me to get vaccinated. And I was like, this is the dumbest conversation I've ever had. Why would I get vaccinated now when I recovered from COVID? And like I told you, it wasn't a big deal. It was only it was one day that sucked, and then I was fine 3 days later when I made that video. There was no logical it was the same conversation that I had with Sanjay Gupta on the podcast, where he's like, are you going to get vaccinated? And I'm like, why would I do that? Like, tell me why I would do that. Well, in Sam's thing, it would offer you more protection. I just got through it pretty easily. Like, I am a healthy person who exercises all the time. I take a fucking slew of vitamins. I sauna every day. I do all these different things that make my body more robust than the average person. I got through this disease relatively easily with all the ways that I prescribed, or that I described, rather, and only one of them was problematic. And one of them being ivermectin. Nobody said a damn thing about me taking IV vitamins, monoclonal antibodies, all the other things I described. I didn't say, ivermectin, guys, you don't need a vaccine, just go out and get ivermectin. What I said was, I got COVID, and we threw the kitchen sink at it.
I remember.
And I'm better.
Yep.
And CNN's response was to turn me green and to say that I'm promoting dangerous horse dewormer and that it's misinformation that's going to cost people's lives. And the fact that Sam is still saying that it costs people's lives is fucking crazy. And I don't know if he's just convinced that he can convince people, that he's so good at debating and he's so good at arguing points and he's so articulate that he could spin this in a way that it makes sense. But it doesn't make sense. And in fact, if you promoted the use of vaccines and it's been shown that these vaccines have caused serious injuries and death to people that didn't need them, I would say you caused death, especially if you're a person that people hold in very high esteem. For someone that people respect their opinion and take it very seriously and would refer to them as an expert.
I totally agree with you, and there's something just weird about the fact that here we have I think you and I would both agree, highly intelligent person who prides himself on analytics. And yet, even as the story is breaking, even as the evidence of vaccine harms becomes unambiguous, and maybe more to the point in this case, even as Paul Offit has now in several different places said that all the top people in the public health regime who were issuing these diktats all knew that natural immunity was the best immunity you were going to get, right? So the evidence is right there that they lied to us in public, that you had it right. There would have been no purpose in you getting a vaccination after you had already recovered. And I would add one other thing. The evidence that vaccinations often make you more vulnerable is unambiguous. In the case of something like a
I'm not getting into the whole vaccines, what they cause and what they don't cause. If you've been following me long enough and seen my live streams, you know my thoughts on that. But Joe Rogan going off on Sam Harris and calling him out. It's been a long time coming for this battle. Sam is in a weird position. I understand his position, but he's always put himself in a weird position, especially now. Because, like, everybody on the left hates Sam Harris. And everyone on the right hates Sam Harris because he's very, very, very anti-Trump. So, like, Sam Harris has put himself in this weird thing where only, like, a sliver of people, like, still rock with him. Like AIU and stuff. But I don't throw people out just because I disagree with them on one thing, depending on what that one thing might be. But this whole battle has been gearing up. So Joe has admitted, though, that he has talked to Sam on the phone and that he still likes Sam, but he's just done with him. Done with him on the podcast and stuff, all because we're still talking about this. It was a hell of a thing that they did to us, that COVID thing. But so that joke in Joe's special was because of Sam Harris? Oh my God, that was a terrible special. The special stunk. Ugh. Some say the Gringo Poppy was better. I don't. But that special that Joe made could have used a little bit more stool humping. That might have made it better. But I don't know. I just like the fact that Joe is finally in his response mode. Mark Maron, Sam Harris, everyone's getting it. But let me know your thoughts in the comments.